Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, WIHS Outreach and Event Coordinator Eviana Bynum spoke with singer-songwriter Heather Layne. You'll hear Heather talk about her journey to Christ, the type of music she specializes in, and more. Catch that conversation happening now on the WIHS Journal, It's News, and Public Affairs.
Welcome to WIHS Journal. I'm Eviana Bynum, and today I'm joined by singer-songwriter Heather Layne, who's also on staff at her church as a worship director and will be in New England in July of 2026 for several concert dates. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time because I know you're like all over the place right now. So for listeners meeting you for the first time, how would you introduce Heather Layne in a sentence or two? Is it artist, worship director, storyteller? What feels most true to you right now?
I would say I'm a singer-songwriter, and I tell my story in between my songs of hope, healing, and restoration through Christ.
That's wonderful. That's such a great thing to do because we all need that, right? So,
Yes.
And can you tell us where you're calling in from today? I know you're like in California.
I'm in California. My music is based in Burbank, which is just over the hill from the Hollywood side. And I was residing down there for a long time, but I decided to move back to the middle of California, closer to my family, currently in Fresno.
So what do you love most about that area?
Honestly, where I'm at is about as north in Fresno as you can get, and it's right on the edge of a place that we call Woodward Park, and it has lots of bike trails and just places to walk, and you kind of feel like you're in the country, even though you're still in town. And I like the convenience of the city, but I grew up on a horse ranch, so I'm definitely a country girl at heart still, so.
I love that. And any chance to get out in nature and to be close to it. So you mentioned that part of your story includes surviving domestic abuse and trauma. So what helped you move from just getting through it to beginning to truly heal?
I actually stopped the relationship at 18. So I was in this abusive relationship during my high school years, and it was very traumatic. People didn't know, including my parents, they didn't know how severe it was. And I was definitely in denial. I was just glad to see the relationship end. And so I sort of stuffed it and didn't deal with it as an 18-year-old. And I went on in my life and didn't deal with it. It stayed very much hidden beneath the surface. And then at 28, I had this spiritual encounter with God, and it's like the lid came off, and whether I wanted it to or not, the trauma just started pouring out really through tears. And I literally probably cried on and off for about 3 years, not really even knowing back then that that's what was going on, but it was the trauma coming out. And I was a young mom, and I was a good mom. I was not taking it out on my kids or anything like that. I was just very emotional and searching, and that's when I wrote my first song. And as I look back, I've written over 1,000 songs, but from the first time I wrote a song until now, it's been a literal process of unpacking the trauma actually through my songs, which was a real gift from God.
That's incredible. So when did you kind of sense God nudging you to share the story publicly, not just privately? Was this first like a private process, and what made you say yes to it and just go out and do it?
I always say the worst thing that happened to me, the thing I did not want to talk about the most, was the thing that God uses the most and has me talking about the most, which I think is ironic. And I always try to encourage people that sometimes that thing that you don't want to talk about is actually the thing that's anointed to help the most people that really need to hear our story. And so I was in my pastor's office, and I was crying, and I was telling him about this relationship that I went through in high school, and I'm all emotional and feeling so much shame over it because I hadn't told anybody really. I mean, I told a few people, but not really gone into depth. This was more like a counseling type appointment. And he just stopped when I was done telling him, and he had this big smile on his face, and he goes, "That's your story."
Wow.
And I was like, well, I'm glad you're happy about it because I'm not happy about
Oh,
And I don't plan on telling anybody this story, but as I got into Celebrate Recovery, I
yeah. It's been
realized,
25 years now, right? That was going to be the
yes,
next thing.
yeah, it was 25 years ago. I wrote my first song on 1101. And then not long after that, I got invited to share a song at a Celebrate Recovery, and they ended up asking me if I would lead the music there. And I think it was God's Jehovah Sneaky's plan to get me into recovery because I didn't think I needed it because I wasn't an addict, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I certainly had a lot of hurts, habits, and hangups. So as I started leading the music, the pastor came up to me and he said, "Hey, I love your songs. They're what I would call recovery songs. So would you open with a couple of worship songs at all of our meetings, but then talk about a couple of your songs and share your songs?" So I was literally processing my own trauma and recovery as I'm sharing my songs with these audiences in Central California, not really even knowing God was setting me up to do what I do today. Because a lot of people ask me, "How did you learn to do what you do today? Tell your story in between your songs." And I'm like, I don't know. He just put me in it before I knew what was going on. But it's just, I got involved in Celebrate Recovery and the small group sharing and the step studies and all of it, counseling, trauma counseling. It's kind of like a big package for me. But mostly it was spending the time with the Lord, one on one, that has healed my heart. I have to know who I am.
Speaking of that, so you're on a tour right now that you're going to be touring New England. You're signed with a label in Nashville. You've had music released across the country and college radio for years. Let's talk about the New England. What prompted this tour over here?
It's so funny, but I live in California and I will start seeing license plates and I'll be at a stoplight and I'll see Connecticut. And then the next day I'll see New Hampshire. Then the next day I'll see Vermont. And what are the odds of somebody from those states driving a car all the way to California and then me seeing it? So I start praying into it, and then the Lord has this way of confirming with me, yes, start reaching out to see if there's any interest. And so in this particular tour, I just started reaching out to people in the area and said, "Hey, if I come on tour, would you be interested in booking?" And so I ended up with 6 concerts in 4 states in 9 days. So I would say that's very fruitful. God
Yeah.
definitely wants me in the area.
I have 5 listed here. So July 6th, you're going to be in Winsted, Connecticut. That's
Yes.
Second Congregational Church of Winsted. And then July 9th, you're going to be Manchester Church of Nazarene. And then you're also going to be in Ossipee, New Hampshire. You're going to be Colchester, Vermont, Linfield, Massachusetts. Which one did I miss?
We just added Wareham, Wareham. It's on my Facebook page, my Instagram page. I also posted it on Bands in Town. All my calendars on there if you want to know exactly which church and the location. But yeah, Wareham.
Okay, so then speaking of that, that's a perfect segue. So I know your website is down right now, but where's
Yes.
the best way that we can find you and find your music right now?
Probably just go to my Facebook page or Instagram, which is Heather Layne, Layne music. If you Google Heather Layne, just make sure you put a Y in it and everything should come up. I mean, my music's anywhere that you can get music on the internet. And then I also have YouTube under Heather Layne Music as well, a channel.
To close, Heather, what would you say to someone who feels like the worst thing that ever happened to them might define them forever? What would you say to them now?
I would say God can put his hand on that and turn it around and blow your mind. What you think is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, God can use to help people in a huge way. He will turn it around. He's able, and he will.
So true. I personally relate to that on every possible way. Well, this has been WIHS Journal. I'm Eviana Bynum. Heather Layne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And you just heard WIHS Outreach and Event Coordinator Eviana Bynum's conversation with singer-songwriter Heather Layne, who's going to be appearing tomorrow night at Manchester Church of the Nazarene. If you would like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049, or visit the WIHS community calendar at WIHSradio.org. I'm Jerry Williams for the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.